Happy Sunday out there, folks. John Hendricks here alongside Ross Jackson for another episode of Second and Saints. Glad to have all you guys here. Glad to have Ross here as always. How's it going, man?
Great, man. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate it. So how pulling it all together. It's been busy. It's been fun. It's been great. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I couldn't have said any better for sure.
That's all I got.
Saints football, man. It's just a fun thing. Let's get down to business, shall we?
Let's get down to business.
Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button. Appreciate all you guys tuning in and all that stuff. But day 10 of Saints training camp, I think where we need to start here is the injuries are like getting out of control.
It's so much.
It's like we were kind of at the point where we're like, okay, we're a little concerned. Now we're a lot of concern. Now it's kind of like we're even more concerned. So they were down 4 big defensive players today. So yeah. I pointed out, I think yesterday, that Peyton Turner was getting taped up on the sideline, in the tent, but he still finished practice. We talked about Nathan Shepard, getting hurt, but he stayed on. But they missed with toe injuries. Pete Werner misses with a shoulder injury. Then Paulson Adebo, I noticed he was kind of walking towards the sideline with this trainer during stretch. Mm-hmm. He has a little bit of a groin injury now. So it's like you add that with Demario Davis, with, Equinemi St. Brown, Bub Means, and you got players that are trying to come back. And Kendre Miller's still out of the mix. Like, this is kind of like an epidemic right now.
Yeah. And I wonder how much of it is the team being cautious. They've already admitted to being cautious with Demario Davis. They've admitted to being cautious with Rashid Shaheed. Perhaps they're being cautious with guys like Pete Werner in particular as well. But these other guys, Peyton Turner, Nick Saldiveri, Kendre Miller, these are all guys that need to be on the field. Yeah. These are all guys that need to show that they can contribute and that they can stay healthy, and that are battling sort of this injury tag, if you will. And so I think in those cases, I think that's where you're going to have the most concern if you're the New Orleans Saints. I think that it's okay to be cautious in certain times. They just came off of 5 days of padded practice, and they went into a day today with shirts and shells and things like that. So maybe an opportunity to just kind of go light before putting pads back on tomorrow. But I think for me, the ones that are most concerning are the young guys that need to show that they can be out on the field and that are fighting for either a roster position or a roster spot as a whole.
Yeah, it was funny because Dennis Allen talked about Saldiveri. Now he shifted his momentum, kind of being like, just making the team. Like, right. That was one of the things that he said on that.
Saldiveri is a guy trying to make the team. Man.
It's just tough on this. And it's like, he pointed out today too, because I made the comment about the IVs in Metairie and all this stuff, but out here, you're looking at practice where they're able to have a longer practice as opposed to back home where they have to kind of get out of the heat and stuff. So they're actually able to maximize more space out here, more players. I was talking to somebody today and they're like, yeah, well, it's cool to stay out here after practice because it's not like, death on earth right there.
Right.
But, it's just, again, these soft tissue injuries. And it's like some of them, with Shepard's injury, he was kind of engaged with Lucas Patrick, and I remember Patrick being like, hey, you good after the rep and stuff. So it's like stuff like that, contact ones, the soft tissue, hamstrings, all these other things, or groins. That's like eating away at this team right now. And it's just begs the question, are they going to even make it past training camp at this point?
Yeah, man. And like the soft tissue injuries were such a big focus for them when they brought in Matt Ray and all this other work that they've been doing and everything like that. They reduced those soft tissue injuries big time. And now all of a sudden it's like they're back with a vengeance. All of a sudden everybody's got a hamstring injury, everybody's got a groin injury, that's just, I don't know, man. It's just not a good sign to see that. And I get to, like, I'll say it's 10 days of training camp so far and everything like that. And so some of it could be acclimation and conditioning and stuff like that. But these aren't guys that are, new to the game of football. These aren't guys that are new to the NFL or whatever. These are guys that have been on the field for a while. Rashid Shaheed, guys like Demario Davis and Pete Werner and Nathan Shepard and Paulson Adebo. These are all guys that have done this before, and that like the conditioning's not an issue for them and stuff. And so I think that's where things can get a little bit concerning on the veteran side is, okay, maybe they're taking precaution and all this other stuff, but just the sheer volume of these injuries through just 10 days of practice is unprecedented, like not unprecedented, but definitely unexpected.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about like CVS receipt style injury report at this point. Like it's tough because like with a groin or hamstring, some of that can carry over into the season, obviously. Like, it just depends on how it plays out and stuff. And of course, the only encouraging things I could say is like with Demario Davis, it's definitely precaution, right? Yeah. Like they said, if there's a preseason game, DeMario could play. So that's like in theory what could happen. And then as far as other players, like we saw Jalen Ford a little bit working out to the side. We're seeing Marshall Lattimore at least be a presence out there for like watching, observing. It's not too long before we probably see him again. Juwan Johnson starting to run more and stuff, but it's untimely. It's not fun because this produced a revolving door almost with your transactions, and you got to get players. I mean, it's hard for them just to field 90 players on a roster right now for training camp practice. You know what I mean? And it's just one of the reasons why they got more receivers and more tight ends is because they saw that, Olave or Shaheed are getting more reps because the other guys just aren't there. And so it's unfortunate, but I mean, that's a lot of players to be missing. Yeah,
big time. And so hopefully they figure out a way to curb it, or things just kind of get better as they get into a more sort of weekly game prep type of rhythm and things like that. And then these guys end up making it back out on the field. And then look, they go down to a 53-man roster after the third preseason game, and then there's just less people to be injured at that point.
And but maybe that works in their favor right now. That's the concern.
That's the tricky part for sure.
Yeah. So it was like you kind of mentioned and alluded to, a little bit lighter day because it was shirts and shells, I guess you could say. But I still think this brought us some good action. I think the biggest question was, does the offense continue from what they did on day 9? I think overall, like what we saw in the end-of-half sequencing, that was definitely there. I didn't like the fact that I think, how many rehuddles did you count? Was it like
two?
Four?
Two rehuddles, but then 3 false starts.
That's what it was. So 2 rehuddles, 3 false starts. They got a holding call. They had an ineligible man downfield because the officials are still here. And so not as crisp as I'd like, but on the same breath, like Derek Carr looked phenomenal. He only missed 1 pass, and that was a throwaway on the very first team rep, 6-6 on the end of half sequence. Big bombs there and stuff. And so that's the good news. But the tempo of this offense and the rehuddles, the false starts, that's a little bit concerning to me.
Yeah, that was a little bit concerning for sure. And that was a lot of second, third team guys and things like that. And so, we could go through all that. But I think that two of the false starts, 2 of the false starts were first team. 2 of them within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plays and everything. And so that is certainly concerning. And so just wanted to see them be able to kind of get into the operation a little bit better. It was nice though, that once they got to, particularly the first team, once they got to the end of half drill, kind of running this in a game simulation, that kind of went away. It felt like they got in and out of the huddle quickly. They got to the line. Everything was communicated. Everybody was set up, all the good stuff. So that seemed to work well. It was just for whatever reason, the operation outside of that, particularly during that specific team drill. And that was still with the first team offensive line for the most part out there in that formation. And so that to me was maybe one of the things that we saw that was concerning. But the other thing too for me is just still watching like Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener constantly having to have a rehuddle at some point. It's a given that every practice there's going to be something like that, and it's going to happen with these young quarterbacks and things like that. Don't get me wrong, but and sometimes it's not about them. Sometimes it's the wrong personnel group in or whatever, and everything. Like it's all the learning curves and growing pains that end up happening, but it's not the greatest show,
right?
Or not the greatest display, not the greatest display of a command of what the offense should be.
Yeah, I see a question here, and you can put it up if you want, but why Carr had to throw it away. Good coverage by the defense. I mean, Kamara was the closest one that was there, but, nobody was open. Nobody was there, and so I think that was a tribute to the Saints defense on that one, but that's why you had a throwaway left on that one. But, again, we've pointed this out before. In a quarterback 2 battle where somebody could get a leg up on somebody else, that didn't happen today, right? Like both of them threw picks, you know what I mean? Like Rattler didn't look too strong in the half sequence, especially at the end when he threw that whatever it was that ended up getting picked off by Cam Jordan, like tip drill.
Yeah, and that one was a little tough too. That one was like the time had actually expired, and he just kind of like launched it as he was falling back, and then Colin Saunders almost had it, and it got bobbled around and everything in there. I ended up not counting that one against him just because of the fact that it was like it was an end of game type of thing. But you're right. I mean, like if you do that with 1 second left on the clock at the end of a half, not ideal.
Yeah,
not ideal at all.
You couldn't get the offense together to be able.
Yeah,
that was the other part. Like I said, I would say too. But and Haener's too. A.T. Perry slipped on a route, and that's what led to his interception. So it's just like, but still, I think that with a quarterback like Haener's in a half sequence looked strong, like and stuff.
5 to 6 on that one.
Still don't see anybody that's like distanced themselves from another. It's still kind of like a neck and neck race, but it's also not, as we pointed out, as intense of a battle as we probably were expecting coming into camp.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's still kind of sitting in this sort of like stagnant place of you've got a couple of young guys behind Derek Carr. You don't really have, it feels like a full-on battle going on for the QB2. I'm really excited to see how that changes when preseason games become a thing and these guys get the opportunity to go out there and compete against a defense that they don't know, and it's under the, it's in the game situation, it's under the lights, all this stuff. Like, I am interested to see how that ends up impacting them, but I think you're right. Like, we're still in a position here to where I would say that this is not like this really gripping battle that we thought it was going to be between these two guys. Rattler also had a throw to where he put it a little bit late to Dallin Holker, or really maybe a little bit early, but he was being rushed out of the pocket, and then he ended up throwing a pass that almost got picked up by Kool-Aid McKinstry, who made a great break on the football. And so just like little things like that. But I think like my big takeaway today was Derek Carr.
Of course,
Derek Carr going 6 of 6 and leading the touchdown drive, looking good otherwise. I think that, to me, is the most important thing, because that's the guy that's going to be taking all your snaps in 2024, barring injury. And so, barring anything like that, like that's the guy. And so that was the big thing for me that I really enjoyed seeing, because it was the second day in a row that was really strong for him.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the rep, because Rattler also made a good pass. I think it was Chase Young that was in his face, and he threw something off his back foot. And I got to find the play, but that was one of the ones I really called attention to. So, I mean, like, they both had their moments where they had some good throws, some good hookups and stuff. It's just, like I said, it's just kind of stagnant in this battle. And so I think with the Cardinals game, it'll obviously open some of that up. But again, the takeaway is this is a kind of a second straight day. Derek Carr looked good in the red zone on day 9. He looked comfortable out there and in the half sequence. The emphasis is more on Derek Carr, because Derek Carr is going to be your starter, right? And so I like seeing that. I think the offensive line is starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, more of a groove. I think they're starting to get a little bit more loosely formed concrete, right when you pour the water and it kind of starts settling, but it's not even close to being set. Yeah, still got to give it a lot, you know what I'm saying? But again, I think there's some things there that are encouraging. But again, from Carr, seeing him play the way he did today, and some of the looks we got too, like the one where Alvin Kamara is in the slot, Chris Olave's in the backfield, and he just absolutely torches, Jordan Howden up the middle, which I think you would have torched anybody on that route. But,
sure.
I think the creativity is obviously a big focal point there that we obviously going to keep a look on. But I've been happy seeing kind of the creativity there. I just don't know if the execution has always been there for every quarterback every single day, obviously.
No, I would agree with you there. I don't think that the execution has been there for every quarterback, but the thing that's really nice is that the execution has absolutely been there for Derek Carr. And that little slot post that Alvin Kamara ran was really nice. We saw another one at an earlier point with a double move for Jordan Mims on the outside as well. They did some running back and linebacker one-on-ones where we saw Jamal Williams make a fantastic catch down the left side as well. So lots of really good stuff when it came to all that, which was great because you wanted to see more of these running backs making plays and everything. The thing that I also liked about Derek Carr's drive at the end of half simulation is that it was 6 completions and it was 6 different pass catchers throughout there. He had all 3
Let's run it down.
Right.
Bring it up.
He hit all 3 wide receivers, Chris Olave, Cedric Wilson, and Mason Tipton, who were kind of the 3 wideouts for the first team. He hit tight end Foster Moreau in one, and then he hit both running backs, Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara. The Alvin Kamara one was a screen where Chris Olave was flagged for a holding penalty that got brought back a little bit, but nonetheless, still 6 of 6 different receivers marching down the field, and then Jamal Williams is the one that punches it in for the touchdown. Pretty good to see them spread the ball around like that and see multiple receivers, multiple pass catchers, regardless of position, making plays.
Yeah, and Mason Tipton, that looked like it was a touchdown.
He said he touched the pylon.
Yeah, the officials were right there, and they gave it to him at the 1. But, again, this is a guy, he looked good because they did this 2-on-2 like receiver battle where they're kind of like practicing rub routes and stuff, and they're working on that left side of the formation. All the quarterbacks were working on him, and look, he just continues to make plays. Like, I know it's not a perfect product, but just somebody that when you don't have all the other guys there, like Bub Means is not out there, Equinemius St. Brown is out there, but Tipton is a guy, and we saw one of the shots where Keith Williams dialed up his number, and lo and behold, he gets the target, and then he gets interfered with too. And so it's just like you see all the excitement for a guy like Mason Tipton. But again, I like the fact that you spread the ball out, and you're still, again, putting the players in the best position to do what they're supposed to do. I mean, seems easy and straightforward, but I think we're seeing it come to life a little bit more too.
Yeah, 100%. And this is just a great story too. I want to tell the Keith Williams story because this is like one of those things that's really nice about being as close as we are. We're really close in proximity. We can hear everything and stuff like that. And so first team drills are going on, team drills are going on, and the first team is on the field. And Keith Williams walks up to Mason Tipton and shouts out to him, and he's like, "Hey, you want action?" Everything. And Tipton turns around. He's like, "What?" He's like, "You want action?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." So he puts his helmet on. And he starts to run back out on the field. He's like, "Go ahead, get out on the field." And then as Mason Tipton, who wears number 84, is running out on the field, Keith Williams shouts, "Hey, 84, you got something for me?" Mm-hmm. And Mason Tipton just puts his thumb up just like this, just like running out on the field. And he's just like, "I got you, coach." And then he like runs out there. And then the play that they called was designed for him to just fly down the right sideline. And he ends up getting the best of the defender over on that side, gets on the other side of him, gets over the top of him, and then eventually gets interfered with, had his jersey pulled back, and so he wasn't able to make the play. So it goes down as an incompletion with defensive pass interference. But it was a great showing because if the defender doesn't grab his jersey, Derek Carr's throw was perfect.
Yeah.
Mason Tipton was where he needed to be. He has the speed. That probably would have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
I would even go so far as to say that more than likely would have been a touchdown.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's put his hands on display like plenty of times.
Right.
So I wouldn't question that. But again, we're living in hypothetical land, I guess, because we're only going off of what we see and all this other stuff. Yeah. But it is encouraging to see him put together more and more. And again, I joked with somebody today. It's just like at this point, I'm not going to be surprised if like Marquez Callaway, him, like Mason Tipton, and maybe even Samson Nakua end up being like the receivers. But I think Stanley Morgan Jr. is starting to stack a little bit more. Cedric Wilson Jr. getting back in the mix has been good. Like there was a particular play where he was running cross motion and they threw it to him in the right side and right flats. And so I like the creativity there. It stings because I think we all had high expectations for Bub Means, and we still do, but just not being able to see him yet. And Equinemius St. Brown, we know how good of a blocker he can be for that run game, which run first offense is what we're looking for. And so not having those guys, and the longer that they're out, just like a Kendre Miller, the longer he's out, the worse outlook that they have when it comes to the final roster. Yeah, completely agreed. If I had to pick 5 wide receivers right now, I would have trouble picking the 5th. Yeah, I would have my top 4 in Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Cedric Wilson, and Mason Tipton, but I would have a hard time figuring out a 5th to grab. I would have to go off of the potential of A.T. Perry, I think. Yeah, it's been tough. And so because I wouldn't want to give up on A.T. Perry, but it's like today in particular was a rough practice for him. And it's up and down. Like he looked in the 2-on-2 drill, like he made a really nice catch from Jake Haener to get in the end zone, but it's just like just the up and down, and you just see the coaching, and we pointed this out yesterday. It's just kind of like the Isaiah Foskey thing that's happening to him, where it's just I think he's overthinking it, but just hasn't had the camp burst that we thought he would. Yeah, at least not yet. So not yet. We'll see what happens when he gets under the lights. I mean, he was great in those 7 games that he played for the team, 246 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns on 12 receptions. Like that's really, really good, highly efficient, all that. And he made a couple of plays in the latter part of the day today in those 2-minute, or excuse me. Yeah, I guess that's right. In those 2-minute drill simulations and things like that. But, he had one point where he caught a pass down the left sideline on a beautiful ball from Spencer Rattler. He had to get it over A.T. Perry. He had to get it to A.T. Perry over J.T. Gray and Ugo Amadi, who were in good position, and just a beautifully placed pass by Rattler. He catches it, stepped out of bounds, but then also still got the ball punched out. So he would have been ruled down with the catch, but nonetheless, like on tape, you're still going to treat that as a coach like he got the ball punched out. Because it was still kind of all in the action. And so JT Gray ended up punching it out in what would have been a big moment for the defense there. And then in the interception that Haener threw, A.T. Perry slipped, and that's what kind of gave Shamar Jean-Charles the track to get in and get the pick. And so I think that there's like some trade-off there to where you kind of go, all this other stuff with him in terms of like these
not so great moments, and then you see these really nice moments towards the end of practice and stuff like that. It's just inconsistent.
Yeah, and there was also a gunner rep where he was going to get the ball, it just wasn't in position too. So it's just like those types of things. And again, will it matter? I'm not the coach of the Saints. I don't make the roster decisions. We're just going by what we see. But it's hard and it's unsettling. And I think somebody asked us, like, should they trade for wide receiver 3 the other day? And like, no, but at the same time, I think there's just going to continue to be this revolving door for the receivers. And, at some point you just need somebody that can be here and be healthy. And like a guy like Samson Nakua, who's only been here for a couple of days, he's already made some standout plays. He got a nice little one-hander in the 2-on-2 drill near the left that looked really pretty. I mean, he's just standing out in a core that's just not there. Injury plagued. They're just not available. And so you can't target Chris Olave 30 times if you're Derek Carr. Right. And then, maybe 15 more for Rashid Shaheed. It's just they got to figure this thing out and just got to get players that are healthy and getting them back. And so, but I saw one here in the question because we're talking about health, but somebody asked about Kendre Miller. It's interesting just because the simple fact that he comes around practice, he shows up, he's an observer, but we don't even see him work off to the side. And that's what's concerning to me is the fact that he's here. Now with Marshawn, he's doing the same thing. Like he shows up, he observes, he'll look at a couple drills, then he'll go back. So they're probably getting treatment inside the building that we just can't see. But usually the step that we see encouragement on is when a player is working off to the side, like a Jawan Johnson or a Jalen Ford. They're working off to the side with the trainer, getting ready to presumably come back to action. Shane Lemieux was doing that the other day, and we knew he was coming back to the lineup. And so that's usually like the final clearance step for some of these players, but we just hadn't seen that for Kendre Miller. And again, the longer that he sits on the bench, I don't know that he's going to just get cut, but Jordan Mims keeps flashing. James Robinson's starting to put together some nice stuff in camp. And so now, and I think Jamal Williams is starting to put more on tape in camp. So it's just like the pecking order of Kamara than everybody else is kind of a really wide gap. But, with Kendre Miller continuing to miss, it's just it's tough to put a pulse on him. Yeah,
for sure. And like you mentioned, Jordan Mims continues to do good stuff and everything like that. And it just makes things all the more challenging for a guy like Kendre Miller once he does get back, because now not only does he have to get back, but he's got to get back and he has to compete. Like he's got to fight for a spot instead of having already solidified what he maybe could have solidified already. And so he still has something to prove once he does get back to the team. And I think that's got to be one of the things that's most frustrating. I'm sure not only for the team, but it's got to be frustrating for Kendre Miller too, because it's not like he doesn't want to be on the football field.
Exactly.
It's not like he doesn't want to be healthy and making these plays. And so I'll bet that it's really a struggle for him too. And then things get even more complicated after the third preseason game when across the NFL, all these players become available. Everything. That's how they got Jordan Mims last year. Jordan Mims got cut at roster cuts by the Buffalo Bills. And so then the Saints went up and signed him. What if another running back ends up popping up that they like? What if another wide receiver ends up popping up that they like at that point? Or an interior offensive lineman, right? And then we're seeing like Nick Saldiveri not be able to stay healthy and all that. Like for me, like those are the guys that are in like the biggest sort of conundrum at the moment, are the ones that are the kind of young players that now keep being told that they're fighting for a roster spot. Like those are the ones that are the most concerning for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned final cuts. Like if I'm going to do the rough math, but it's like 37 players get cut, 32 teams. I think it's like 1,200 and something players. Maybe it's 1,300, but that's a lot of players are going to be out. Now, some of them can get brought back on the practice squad for 16, and you can have the vets and all this other stuff. But I mean, you don't cut a Kendre Miller without somebody trying to pick him up. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't work like that. You can't just wave this guy and expect to just bring him back out because somebody's going to pounce on him. You know what I mean? Like what that happened to was it Ian Book? I don't know if he got picked up from waivers. Was it he picked up from waivers?
Who I always think of the oh gosh.
Well, you can't think of him now.
No, I can't even think of. Was it Tank Williams? No, it wasn't Tank Williams. That was the running back. It was a corner that the Saints cut with an injury designation, and then he got picked up by the Miami Dolphins. And then Trill Williams.
Oh yeah, Trill
Williams. It happened with him at one point.
Yeah, Syracuse guy. Yeah, we had high hopes for Trill Williams back in the day, but those things happen. I mean, it is a gamble every time they, because your practice squad, unless you protect them during the season, which we don't really see a lot of that. And I mean, we saw players get poached off. I mean, Jason Pierre-Paul was the one like last year, just randomly there, and he gets poached off to the practice squad by the Dolphins and stuff. So,
and even if you protect the player, you can't protect them until Tuesday anyway. So that Monday they can still, they're not fully 100% protected. They can still sign away if they want to. Yeah.
But I mean, day 10, not as big of a practice because, no pads, just I don't want to say it felt lethargic, it felt lacking or anything, but it just definitely didn't have as much intensity as the other practices did with the pads.
It was light today. No Kendrick played, and so the tone was just never set. You know what I mean?
Kirk Franklin blasting out there. All the 4 players in the Saints know who that is.
No, but it was like a little bit of a lighter day, and especially after 5 days of padded practices. I think that they probably welcome that too.
Sure,
I think that there's some value in all that, but it was a much lighter, much more sort of lax day, and then things really kicked up for that end of practice, 2-minute drill work. And then after that, it just, then practice was over, but everything leading up to that was just kind of like a slow build, everything like that. So it was fine. It just was a little bit different than what we've seen intensity wise over the course of the past few days.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one player that doesn't lack intensity is Chase Young.
Ever.
I mean, this dude just jawing and giving it to the offense and just continuing to do it. Like
Carl Granderson too.
Carl Granderson. Like there's players that just continue to bring energy, just like Foster Moreau.
Yeah.
Always going to bring energy for the offense. So it's not like it was flat.
Right.
Like you still got plenty out there that is getting talked about, but it's just one of those things. I guess some players that maybe stood out to you. I'll give you 2 in particular for me. 2 undrafted rookies, because I know people always ask. Kyle Hergel, interior offensive lineman, and Isaiah Stallbird.
Yeah.
I think Isaiah Stallbird flashed all over the place a good bit today. I think DeMarco Jackson, not that we're talking about undrafted, but DeMarco Jackson needs some love too. But Hergel had a rep where he had a really nice pass pro rep, and then he followed that up by being in perfect position for a screenplay. And so, again, he's one of those guys that needs some development probably, and obviously he's highly touted out of the CFL, and Isaiah Stallbird's a guy that's that hybrid safety linebacker, but he's making plays. And it's I was thinking to myself, joking, I was like, at some point maybe they just need to keep like 9 or 10 linebackers in the room because we see all of them making really good plays, like Khalil Hudson yesterday, DeMarco Jackson, we've seen Anthony Orji. I mean, like, they're all making plays. Monty Rice is making plays too. Like they're all doing something. But 2 undrafted rookies that I think caught my eye today.
Yeah. I really liked Michael Jacobson today. I thought Jacobson had a nice day,
good hookup.
Particularly a couple of big plays in the middle of the field, which again, like this is a big change for the Saints offense. No matter which quarterback is in, they seem to not favor any one area of the field.
Right.
They seem to do a really good job of spreading the ball around all 3 levels, left, right, and in the middle. They're fine targeting in the perimeter. If you look at like Derek Carr's passing chart from last year, it was very, very heavy on the perimeters, not so much happening in the middle of the field. And I believe he was heavier to his right than he was to his left, if I recall correctly. You're heavier in one direction than the other. So far throughout camp, all 3 quarterbacks we're seeing so far, all 3 levels, perimeter and in the middle, and totally fine going to either side. And so, so I highlight that just as a side note, but Jacobson for me had a really, really nice day at tight end, making some of those big catches over the middle that we saw him making in the red zone situations just a day ago.
Yeah.
And then I thought that Christian Boyd had a couple of flashes again today too. Good run stopper, getting in there and everything. Probably felt like the most active of the interior guys, although we also saw Colin Saunders bat another pass down at the line of scrimmage. We saw Brian Brzee bat one down, like have a nice day too. Blew up a run, and stuff. And so we're still seeing all these little things that this defense can do, even on a day to where the offense is the story.
Yeah, you didn't have Taysom in there. You had a couple of veteran rest days, obviously, out there too. But, I felt pretty encouraged about the youth that has been out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that the guys that have been available that I've liked. I've seen some flashes from the rookies. We've seen it from I think most of the rookie class, I would say. I'm trying to think of, except for maybe Bub Beans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only one we really haven't seen much of. But most of those guys and some undrafted rookies, I mean, like guys like Jacob Cabote are looking good at times too, getting some runs to the second level. I mean, they're starting to have some of these rookies really play up a little bit more, and some of their younger players. And I think this is a team, I got asked this yesterday, is just like, is this team a contender? Are they building? Or are they rebuilding? And the way I answered that question was, they're contending, but they need a lot of pieces to continue to build to be able to be a contender too.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. It does kind of to me. Like, it just, they don't have all the pieces to say, okay, they're truly maybe a contender for the Super Bowl, even though I know a lot of people believe it and all this other stuff. But I mean, look at the last few seasons, unless something drastically changes. I mean, they could get in a wild card, but if you do that and you get into the playoffs this season, is that really a success? Or does it need to be a deep playoff run? Do they need to push that envelope a little bit more? I don't know the answer, but I think they have this 2-year window still, like I pointed out before, with DeMario, Cam, and Tyron. This is their 2-year window to get something done. I don't know what that looks like, but they have high hopes and expectations too.
Yeah, for sure. This is an interesting question. You came to the right place. LJ wants to know, who are some special teams gems that we may not be tracking since offense and defense are the main things that are being focused on? Aren't we just the right people for this question?
Yeah, we got, if you don't know, again, shameless plug, what Ross will talk about it on Locked On, but if you go check out all my written recaps on Saints News Network, Saints on Sports Illustrated, I put special team notes in there every single day.
Yep.
And so we saw some really good gunner reps today.
Yeah.
JT Gray.
JT Gray in particular.
And again, I'm not throwing shade, but when special teams drills happen, that's when most people kind of like take off or check out in a way. We don't do that. Like, there's a couple of us that don't, but those things matter because that's where guys like your Will Harris do play really well. Or we've seen good reps from Kool-Aid McKinstry. You want to know what Kool-Aid McKinstry does. It's not just what he does on the field, even though he almost had that pick. I think that would have been a pick 6 too.
Sure. Yes.
That was definitely like a dangerous ball. And I would have loved to see him do that. But like guys like that are going to make it, or your DeMarco Jacksons, who people are like, who, and but he's a key core special teams player. And so Will Harris is one, JT Gray,
Jonathan Abram,
100% with him. And, that's where you got guys like Stanley Morgan Jr., who's also making plays. That's his bread and butter. But, man, there's so many of them. Who's some of the ones that you have? Which obviously you pointed out yesterday or on Saturday, the Nico Lalos, Jack Heflin.
Yeah, that was my favorite. That was my favorite rep of camp so far. But yeah, Nico Lalos is still one of those guys too, because he also gives you the pass rushing presence. He had a great preseason last year, and now he's showing you some of the things he can do on special teams just with the hustle. They had basically Nico Lalos on the punt coverage team and Jack Heflin on the punt return team, and that's pretty typical because you want kind of like the bigger blocker guys and stuff like that. But then on the other side, you want the guys that are going to be able to get downfield. And so Nico Lalos just gets around Jack Heflin and, as we learned, is faster than Jack Heflin and ended up getting downfield in time to potentially make a play. Like, he even started to be able to kind of like strafe up and like line up with the kicker. I thought it was great. It was great hustle. And I love seeing that from a guy like Nico Lalos, who felt like he was just like inches away from potentially stealing a roster spot last offseason with his preseason performance. Another guy that has stood out for me when it comes to some of those reps too was I guess it was Jonathan Abram. But beyond that, it was Jordan Howden and Will Harris. Both of them as jammers. I haven't seen them lose yet. Like when those guys have duoed up to jam on opposing gunners, they have not lost. They are just relentless. Especially Will Harris is relentless. And I give Kool-Aid McKinstry a lot of credit on special teams as well, because I think he has been, for me, one of, if not the most impressive rookie. And a big reason why is not just because of what he's doing in coverage on the defensive side, but because of all of the different places that he's put in and different positions that he's put in on special teams, and that he continues to excel there too. Yeah, I want to stick on special teams because I definitely, if you want special teams talk, you're going to get it right. You've come to the right place.
Really exciting stuff that maybe Ross and I are the only people that care about it, but
all 2,100 plus of you have come to the right place.
I don't know what you guys do. Hey, like, subscribe, show us some love and all that while you're here. But but you were singling out McKinstry. I thought Taliesin Fuanga had a really nice day in coverage, in pass pro. And
he's been playing so well lately that it's making me hesitate now when I say that Kool-Aid McKinstry is the best looking rookie so far. Because I'm like thinking about Tally because he's been playing well.
Yeah. So, but on special teams, here's what I wanted to hit on because we saw this is the first day we really saw the kickoff rules, like the kickoff work, like the full coverage.
That's right. Yeah, 11 on 11. Yeah.
So, like, I'm fascinated by the kickoff rules. Like, I just am enthralled because I know how this looks. Riz is the guy that is going to know, but like the way they were stacking the formation. So you had about 7 players on the 30-yard line. You had 2 players on the 35.
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry.
35
Strike that, reverse that.
Yeah,
Willy Wonka style. 7 on the 35, 2 on the 30, and then you had your 2 returners. But the way that they formulated that is they would have 3 guys on one side, or they'd have 3 guys on another side, and then they'd have 2 in the middle and then 2 on the other side. And so one formation had like 4 tight ends in that bunch between the 35 and 30, and then some of them had a different look. But I guess why I'm enthralled is because I pointed out and I asked you, is like, does that mean that's where they want the return to go? Is that right side, or are they trying to do misdirection? But like, I'm just fascinated by how this special teams rule is going to come to play.
Yeah, and we were kind of going back and forth on it because the other possibility is that it's the kicking team that sets that look in terms of they're heavier on their left side, so therefore the blocking team also has to be set up to be heavier on that side, and it's where the kicking team might be looking to kick. I don't know. It's gonna be really, really interesting to see it over the course of this weekend in particular, this coming weekend, where we're going to see more of it. We saw it at the Hall of Fame game, but that was kind of it, and then where it all goes. But it really was the first time that we got the opportunity to see it 11 on 11 here, and so it was cool to see that. I'm going to answer a couple questions real quick. Austin wants to know how Zach Wood. Perfect.
No concerns.
Best long snapper in the NFL. It's easy. And then Kenneth asks, where is linebacker Jalen Ford? Injured. He's dealing with an injury. He was off to the side watching today. So he was present and around today in a jersey, but not participating. Still nursing an injury at the moment.
Yeah, and you guys want to know, like, who's some of the special teams. So here's some of the players that were on that, like, top return unit was, like, a Roderick Teamer, who I think could make this roster. You had Kevin Austin Jr. He's another one that's been playing there. JT Gray, DeMarco Jackson, Jonathan Abram, Adam Prentice, who everybody forgets about the fullback sometimes. They had Foster Moreau on there. Isaiah Foskey was also on there, Jordan Howden, and then they have the 2 returners and stuff. So I'm really interested to see how they formulate that one. And sticking with special teams, look, Charlie Smith missed 2 extra points today. It wasn't that good of a look, but man, that boot from 62 yards would have been good from 70.
Easy good from 70. Like, right down the middle.
Again, if he can get the accuracy, and I know this guy's only been kicking for what, 10 months? Really?
Yeah.
If he can get the accuracy down, like, he can be something insane. Yeah. Like, but I'm just amazed with how effortless he makes the ball when he kicks it. Like, just sails, and then B, just how big of a leg he has. It's just crazy. But 62-yard field goal, nothing to shake a stick at.
Not at all. And remember, Charlie Smith does not have to win the kicking competition to stick around. He's an international program player, which means that the Saints would be granted a roster exemption. He would effectively be, for lack of a better phrase, a 17th practice squad guy. He would just not count against any roster numbers anywhere and stuff like that. So the Saints could still keep him around. A couple of kick returner pairings that we saw today with it's notable because no Kendry Miller, who has contributed there, no Rashid Shaheed, no Taysom today. So that shook away and took out a lot of guys that would typically be returning. But for me, I saw kick returner pairings of James Robinson as well as Jamal Williams. And then we also saw Mason Tipton and Alante Taylor. Those are the 2 pairs that I saw today.
I had an interesting beef that I saw on social media that was talking about whether or not Rashid Shaheed was actually going to be used in kickoff returns.
Oh, yes. 100%.
That was, but it was interesting because somebody's like, no, I swear he's not going to do that. Or, even the Taysom Hill, but like, guys, Rashid Shaheed's going to return kicks. Yeah. Like, they just are going to have him. Like, you don't make the Pro Bowl as a returner if you don't return stuff, but like, he's going to be in that mix for sure. And I'm excited to see Rashid Shaheed, but him and Taysom Hill, like, that's usually the top pairing, I think, if I'm not mistaken, like him or
for a little while it was him and Jermaine Jackson. Yeah, but now Jermaine Jackson's not on the roster any longer. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you guys have questions, by all means, definitely drop them Will definitely can answer some for sure. As far as other things that stood out, again, as far as the practice goes, you're still seeing some pressure come after if like the offensive line hasn't arrived yet, still getting some pressure to the quarterback, which I like to see, seeing a couple of sacks. I still think that we're getting more of a balanced practice in some aspects.
Yeah.
We're working more to getting a balanced practice instead of, the defense was just dominating early. Like they just looked out of this world. Then the offense started to catch up. They started to respond. They started to punch back. And then they started to look really good yesterday, especially in red zone. And then today was kind of an even battle. So,
yeah. I got a couple
Who are you
questions from the
laughing at?
chat, but I really enjoyed this comment because someone's new here. Get ready to learn Jordan Mims. Let us tell you something.
I don't know how many months ago we have to go back on this pod, which you can catch on our YouTube channel and on the podcast, all that stuff. But yeah, anyways, shameless plug. But yeah, that's funny.
That is very funny.
Yeah.
Someone was asking about this one was from that was Molly's older question. Austin here wanted to know if we think the New Orleans Saints need to be looking at adding another running back with Kendra still hurt. I don't think they have to be in a hurry for that. I think if somebody gets cut at roster cuts that's interesting, then maybe there's a chance that they like dip into that. But I think that they're happy with what they've seen from Jordan Mims. Yeah. And I think you gotta like what you've seen from James Robinson so far. Yeah, I think at the worst case, Robinson could be your practice squad guy. I think so. Right. 100%. And I even like, again, some of the things, Jacob Kabote's doing a few things here and there, but like he had a run yesterday where he just didn't, I don't know, for whatever reason, he didn't hit the hole hard, like on the left side or run on Saturday. And so, but he's had some moments where he has some nice cutback. And I think James Robinson has had some of those moments too, where he's able to cut back inside, make something out of nothing. And he's one that I like to see in the practice or in preseason. But, Mims, for me, it's Kamara, it's still Jamal Williams, Kendre, and then it's Jordan Mims for me. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would think that like if Kendre is healthy, he's still the option. You know what I mean? Long? But the question is how long, right? So you got to be ready for when he's not again. Yeah. Or you have to be prepared if that's going to be the case. Yep. Or you no matter what have to be ready for like if it doesn't work with Kendre. And so that's where I think a Jordan Mims comes in for sure. Mm-hmm. This one is from I'm going to say this very carefully. I'm just going to say Big M. Big M says, now that how has Kevin Austin looked to you guys in camp? From the highlights, he looks like MT13 light. Okay, so he's not that. I wouldn't put that kind of expectation on him, but I do think that like him as an X receiver and a quintessential lone split end wide type guy, it works. I think he fills that role well, and maybe he could be that other receiver. I think you probably still lean on the potential of A.T. Perry over him, but I could see the value in a Kevin Austin, and if nothing else, would be really, really solid to add to the practice squad. Yeah, I mean, I think so too. It's just, you look at some of these guys, and I think I even made the joke today too, is like, what's going to end up happening is if Keith Kirkwood doesn't make Baltimore's squad and gets cut, Saints will just bring him back. Like, it's just going to be that kind of thing, right? This is the boat we feel like we're going towards right now. Yeah. And somewhat, but Kevin Austin Jr., he's made some good catches. Like he's made some good catches and he's had some really good one-on-one routes. He's done some things on special teams, which gives him extra upside. And so, I mean, he's a guy that can see increased targets. And again, he's one of those that in the preseason, dare I say, he could see a lot more action. And again, it's fascinating because there's no Nathan Peterman in this mix. It's going to be presumably a lot of Haener, a lot of Rattler. And, you start seeing some of these connections, like Haener both of those quarterbacks were on the Michael Jacobson pipeline, right? Time. But Haener has his guy or Rattler has his guy. Rattler probably misses Bub Means a lot because that was a guy that was like kind of a comfort, almost like a safety blanket for him a little bit and stuff like that. Like, you have those guys that you get comfortable with for sure. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Let's see. As far as other big notes, I guess we can talk about the offensive line again, just because we're starting to see, some of the other offensive linemen like a Shane Lemieux or Oli Udoh or Kyle Hergel, but Landon Young kind of pin in, or Lucas Patrick kind of pinning, rotating in with that first team and stuff like that. Yeah. Although Udoh was a planned rest day, but he was working at left tackle injury and stuff like that. So. But he's working at left tackle. He's working at left guard. They put him out in different things, and so they're trying to get
these offensive linemen, especially some of these veterans that we feel like could make this team, but like Shane Lemieux is doing center instead of just doing left guard. He's also doing right guard. I mean, they're rotating him out. Landon Young's playing both tackle spots. He's playing left guard, and I don't remember seeing Landon Young ever at guard. I don't know if we saw him at like training camp last year. Now, of course, my memory is not what it used to be.
Yeah, he's played a little bit of it, but yeah, he's typically been a tackle guy.
Yeah, there was that game that he did. I think he played some in the interior because they were like down to no offensive linemen. Was that Atlanta maybe? I think. And so, but at the same time, these things happen. But just an update on that. Brian Brzee took a little bit more with the first team, obviously because Nathan Shepard wasn't there with the toe injury. Brzee's looking good out there. He's looking comfortable. I think besides the toe injury for Nathan Shepard, I still think him and Colin Saunders look really good, really comfortable in this defense now. Yeah,
I would have to agree with that. I thought today probably felt like almost like the defensive line was kind of disappointed they weren't in pads anymore. Yeah. Almost, you know what I mean? So they get back into pads tomorrow. I can't wait to see if they start kind of being the wrecking balls that they were again and all of this stuff. So I'm all about that.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at a couple of other things here. Are either of the kickers starting to pull away from one another? I know my Blake Groupie number.
I can get all that. But Charlie Smith, again, he missed some kicks. He's 30 of 37 in camp right now.
Blake Groupie is 33 of 38.
That's correct. Yeah, 33 of 38. Now, Groupie's misses, some of them have been that long range, which I don't. It'll come in handy, right? Yeah. But he also missed one inside the 40, which is kind of a little bit concerning. But again, am I going to get upset over like one kick? No, not in camp right now. Right. Although that one kick could mean a lot. Like I know people talk about the Green Bay game last year, but he should have never been in that position to begin with.
Right.
You know what I
mean? I think I'm more concerned about at this moment Charlie Smith missing the extra point distance because we've seen it a lot now. I think 3 different times now that we've seen it. And so like for me, that's the thing where it's like, okay, get solid from there. And then we're probably talking about a guy who can have a big career, right? Yeah. Like if you can just get solid within 40, then you're going to be fine. And so I still think right now it's Groupie's job. But then once Charlie Smith is comfortable within 40, I could see him getting an opportunity. I think it's here no matter what, because he's under contract, right? Like he's not going anywhere even if he doesn't win it. So he's got 3 years to do it. So maybe Blake Groupie improves just in time for himself to get a big contract that the Saints don't want to give him. And so he gets an opportunity to get the contract somewhere else and the Saints turn to Charlie Smith or something like that. Like it's a good situation.
Pointed out the other day on the pod.
Yeah, it's a good situation.
Now I am still intrigued about this punter battle because it was a Matt Hayball day. And let me tell you, his punts just look amazing.
And his location's good.
Yeah, every punt landed inside the 10. So he just puts it just for those who don't know, again, special teams nerds here. And Lou Hedley's worked a lot on his long ball a little bit, but it's still not there as much as what a Matt Hayball is. But like they'll punt from deep territory and they get this nice little spiral. But once it starts getting into that positive territory or, around midfield or past midfield going into the defensive zone, it starts getting this helicopter spin on it. And it just looks something crazy.
Yeah.
But he had a really good day.
Yeah, he had a really, really nice day. Lots of good locations. Everything was inside the 5. Couple of touchbacks, but one of those touchbacks was somebody not getting there in time and stuff like that. So pretty good. Yellow was asking, is DeMario a day-to-day thing? I would say DeMario is more like it's a precaution. That's the way I would look at it. It's a precautionary thing. They're
not worried about DeMario Davis, but at the same time, they're just worried about making sure his body's like good to go.
Yeah, it's more like DeMario doesn't need an off-season thing. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like he'll be fine. At this point, is James Hurst still a phone call away? Nope, he got a job. He's got a job. He's over at WDSU.
He lived the family life. He had a daughter and all that other stuff. Great story behind all of that. But yeah, he'll never come back to football.
Yeah.
Landon Young is your new James Hurst right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's moving around inside out, doing all this kind of stuff. So really, really good stuff. I think it's it.
Getting close to that. I mean, look, I don't know if there's much else to point of emphasis. I mean, again, Derek Carr, I think probably is the highlight of today, like the star of today, but some real good stuff from Mason Tipton. Good stuff all around from some of the offensive players. I really love the routes to Alvin. I still think Chris Olave looks like Chris Olave.
So good.
He looked good in 2-on-2. He caught all his targets. I think he's just looking very comfortable and all this other stuff. sidetrack. Did you see that little video about what he said about the Saints offense that is blowing up?
Oh yeah, because they cut it. They cut the answer off.
Yeah.
So it's a video that makes it look like Chris Olave is saying that the Saints offense can't be good in 2024, and that's not at all what he said. Go and watch the actual clip. Don't look at clips that are just on social media.
Yeah, but we live in an age and day where that's what people want to do. They'll just make it what they want to. Right. So, but yeah, man. So I can't believe 10 days in, we got another practice. Then they're going to be off, and then we're going to be in preseason week. Which by the way, Dennis Allen has not given any information. I don't expect much information. And please don't make a big deal about this unofficial depth chart. It doesn't mean diddly poo, as Jim Moore would say. It doesn't.
Yep. Like diddly poo.
It's not going to matter really, and just keep plugged into us. We'll tell you who kind of the formations is. That's the biggest thing. I think that's what we expect to emulate for most of the preseason. But it just depends. Is it going to be Haener and Rattler, Haener then Rattler, or is it going to be Rattler then Haener? But it doesn't matter because I think the next game is going to be the exact opposite.
Yeah, they'll just flip it. Everybody's going to get their opportunities and stuff like that. All right, last thing, because this is a good question from Yella, because we haven't thought to really talk about this. But speaking of Alvin Kamara, is the contract still on the table? Have you heard any whispers? I understand that the contract is still on the table, that nothing's been rescinded or taken back, but that's the most that I
haven't heard anything as far as movement goes. I mean, and that's as of Sunday at 3:36 Cali time, but nothing at this point. So that's getting close. We're wrapping up. Just want to make sure, again, please subscribe. You guys have been fantastic. I can't believe this many people tuned into this episode that actually wanted to listen to it.
3,000 people checking us out today. I love it.
Look, we love you guys. Thanks for giving us the time of day on this Sunday for sure. Now, while I have you, I want to make sure to remind everybody, if you're in the SoCal area, we have our live show in Saints Fan Meetup on August 8th in Fullerton, California, August 8th.
California knows how to party.
Yes. Bourbon Street Bar and Grill out in Fullerton. We're going to have some giveaways. Just come hang out. We're going to pretend to know what we're doing. Don't have any high expectations other than to record our show and then kick it with fans, maybe answer some questions and stuff. That's really all.
Yes.
It's just a chance for fans to meet up and, hopefully pack that place out and show Saints that there is a big presence of Saints fans in Cali, SoCal particularly. Yeah. But don't forget to check out Ross's action on Locked On. He's doing a whole bunch of stuff every single day. Cool announcements coming too. Just a precursor without spoiling anything.
Thanks, man.
And then obviously all the written work we do at Saints News Network, Saints on Sports Illustrated. Take us with you on our pod, Red Circle, Apple, Spotify, all that fun stuff. Don't forget, subscribe, tell everybody about us. We're growing, and it's only because of you guys that we do this, and we'll continue to keep doing it. And if you have any feedback, suggestions, comments, criticism, please email us, DM us. They're always open. But that's going to do it for us. Day 10 of Saints Training Camp in the books.
Oh, boy.
On behalf of Ross Jackson, I'm John Hendricks signing out. Y'all have a good weekend.
That's the sound of your current hype level at the gas pump. But brace yourself for something fuel nominal, because Unleaded 88 is about to take the hype to a whole new level. Unleaded 88 is cheaper, cleaner, and greener than regular unleaded. Plus, it's homegrown, making Unleaded 88 the clear choice at the pump and totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88, brought to you by Iowa Corn.